When I say that clarity creates power, I'm not talking about some vague motivational slogan. I'm talking about a deep psychological reality. Most people are not living in clarity, they're living in fog. Their minds are filled with scattered goals, half-hearted plans, competing desires, and background noise. And in that fog, even when they're moving without direction. They're like someone wandering in a forest with no map. Yes, they're walking, yes, they're expending energy, but every step could be taking them further away from where they need to go. Now imagine the difference when a person has clarity, when the direction is condensed into a single, precise sentence. That sentence is like a compass. It doesn't solve every obstacle, it doesn't clear the path, but it points north. And once you have north, you can orient everything else. The fog doesn't disappear, but it becomes irrelevant because you have a reference point. That's what I mean when I say clarity creates power. It doesn't magically eliminate chaos, but it gives you the ability to navigate it. Psychologically, human beings crave direction. The mind cannot tolerate prolonged aimlessness without descending into anxiety or despair. When people lack clarity, they tend to distract themselves with shallow pleasures, with noise, with business, anything to avoid facing the fact that they don't know where they're going. But the moment you articulate a clear sentence of purpose, something profound shifts inside you. You are no longer wandering, you are journeying. And those are not the same thing. Wandering exhausts you, journeying strengthens you, even when it's hard. Think of September right now as a kind of symbolic threshold. It's not just another month. It represents a pivot in the year, a chance to define what the final stretch will mean for you. Most people drift through September as if it's just a bridge between summer and the chaos of the year's end. But you can claim it differently. You can make it the month where you draw your line in the sand. And the way you do that is by condensing your focus into one clear sentence. Notice the simplicity here. I didn't say a 10-page plan. I didn't say an endless vision board. I said one sentence. Why? Because the mind can hold a sentence in memory. It can grip it. You can wake up with it, repeat it throughout the day, and return to it when you falter. One sentence becomes a guidepost. The problem with most people's goals is not that they're unworthy. It's that they're buried under complexity. They're diluted. But one sentence cuts through. And here's the deeper truth: clarity is not easy. Most people avoid it because clarity is also confrontation. To write your one sentence, you must face what you actually want and admit where you've been living dishonestly. You have to confront the ways you've wasted time, the distractions you've indulged, the fears you've allowed to dominate you. That's painful. But that pain is the beginning of power. Because once you confront it, you can shape it. Clarity demands sacrifice. It demands that you give up 100 scattered ambitions so that one can actually come alive. You can see this in every meaningful human story. The heroes of mythology, the innovators of history, the leaders who shaped the world. What did they all have? Not infinite options, not endless flexibility. They had clarity of purpose, a sentence carved into their minds that defined them. That is why their energy seemed inexhaustible, why they endured hardships others could not. It wasn't luck, it was clarity. Their compass was set, and so their suffering had meaning. And that's what you need for September. Not a fantasy of perfect days, not an illusion of easy success, but a compass. A sentence that defines who you will be and what you will do, no matter what storms come. Because storms will come, doubt will creep in, distractions will tempt you. But if your sentence is sharp enough, it will cut through all of it. It will bring you back when you start to drift. So I want you to consider this very seriously. What is your one sentence for September? What is the clear, undeniable statement that, if you lived by it for the next 30 days, would transform your direction? Don't overcomplicate it. Don't soften it. Make it sharp, make it honest, make it bold. Then repeat it until it becomes part of your identity. Because clarity is not merely about seeing, it's about becoming. The moment you clarify your purpose, you begin to align yourself with it. You start to act differently, to speak differently, to carry yourself differently. Clarity changes not only what you do, but who you are. And that is the essence of breakthrough. So let me leave you with this. One sentence can change everything. It can make the difference between drifting into another wasted month and seizing September as the turning point of your life. Clarity creates power. And if you dare to write and live that sentence, September will not pass by you. It will transform you. If clarity is the compass, then the formula itself, the union of intention and action, is the act of walking in the direction it points. And this is where many people stumble. They get inspired. They even manage to define what they want, but they stop at intention. They write it down, Maybe they whisper it to themselves a few times, and then they wait for something to happen. But nothing happens, and they conclude that the formula doesn't work, that life is stacked against them. The truth is much harsher. Intention without action is hollow. It's not a compass, it's a wish, and wishes don't build lives, choices and behaviors do. When we talk about the one-sentence formula, we're really talking about a synthesis. On one side, you have intention, your articulated purpose, your clear direction. On the other side, you have action, the daily, consistent steps that give substance to that purpose. Alone, each side is incomplete. Pure intention drifts into fantasy. Pure action without intention collapses into meaningless business. But when the two meet, you get something extraordinary. You get directed energy, and that's what transforms September, or any month, into a breakthrough. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone decides their sentence for September is, "I will treat my body as a vessel of strength and discipline." That's intention. It's powerful, but if they don't act on it, it becomes a comforting mantra and nothing more. But the moment that person translates it into action, waking up to exercise, resisting junk food, setting boundaries with their time, they close the gap between thought and reality. And every action reinforces the sentence until it's no longer just something they say. It's something they are. That's the formula at work. Psychologically, this marriage of intention and action creates alignment. One of the most destructive experiences a person can have is internal contradiction, saying one thing and living another. That tension breeds guilt, shame, and eventually cynicism. But when your intention and action line up, you experience integrity. Integrity is not just a moral word, it literally means wholeness, undividedness. A person with integrity is powerful because they're not fragmented inside. Their thoughts, words, and behaviors move in the same direction. That's where momentum comes from. That's why you feel stronger when you keep even small promises to yourself, because you're unified. Now, this doesn't mean the formula makes life easy. In fact, it will make life harder in the short term. Intention demands clarity, and action demands discipline. Together, they demand sacrifice. If you decide your sentence, you are, by definition, deciding against 1,000 other possible sentences. And if you act on it, you will feel the sting of discipline, the friction of effort, the weight of saying no to comfort. But paradoxically, that difficulty is what brings meaning. Because the harder something is, the more it carves you into someone capable of carrying responsibility. And responsibility, not pleasure, is what makes a human life valuable. Here's something worth reflecting on every day in September. You will face 100 opportunities to betray your intention. To say, "I'll do it tomorrow," or "doesn't matter this once." And every small betrayal will weaken you, even if no one else sees it. Because you see it. You always see it. That's why the formula works only when action is non-negotiable. You cannot afford to treat your sentence as optional. The moment you do, you turn it back into a wish. And here's where it deepens. Consistent action doesn't just support your intention. It transforms your identity. If you wake up for 30 days and live according to your sentence, you don't just complete tasks, you become the kind of person who does those tasks. That shift in identity is far more powerful than any single achievement, because achievements fade, but identity sustains. Once you become someone who acts with discipline, you can apply that identity to every domain of life. This is why September can be so pivotal. A month is long enough to build real momentum, but short enough to hold in your imagination. You don't need to commit to forever, just to this window of time, just to 30 days of living out the formula. And if you do, you'll reach October not as the same person, but as someone who has tasted transformation. That taste will change you. It will make mediocrity unbearable, because once you've seen what you're capable of, you can't unsee it. So understand this: the one-sentence formula is not magic. It's not a trick. It's a principle rooted in the way human beings are wired. We need intention to give direction, and we need action to give reality. If you separate them, you will either dream without progress or labor without meaning. But together, they form the bridge between who you are now and who you could be by the end of September. And if you think that sounds too simple, good, because it should be simple. The hardest truths are often the simplest. Intention plus action equals transformation. That's it. The difficulty is not in understanding it. The difficulty is in living it every single day, especially when you don't feel like it. But that's where greatness is born, in the small, consistent acts that prove your sentence is not just words, but life. So I'll leave you with this challenge. Don't just write your sentence for September. Live it. Let your actions be the evidence that you meant what you said. Because when intention and action finally meet, the month won't just pass, it will mark you. If clarity gives you direction, and if the formula of intention plus action gives you movement, then the next layer is identity. And this is where most people go wrong, because they build their sentences around outcomes rather than around who they must become. They say, I want to make more money this month, or I want to lose weight, or I want to finally get organized. Those are outcomes. They might be desirable, but they are shallow if they stand alone because they don't address the deeper structure of the self that produces them. You cannot sustainably achieve what is not consistent with your identity. Sooner or later, the mask slips. Think about it this way: if your sentence is only about what you want to have, you're approaching life as a consumer. You're reaching out to take something as though fulfillment lies in grabbing the next shiny object. But when your sentence is about who you are becoming, you shift from consumption to transformation. You stop saying, I want this result, and you start saying, I am the kind of person who. That shift changes everything, because identity is the engine of behavior. Psychologists have studied this for decades. Behavior follows identity more than it follows desire. If you see yourself as disorganized, even if you want to be tidy, you will unconsciously sabotage your efforts. If you see yourself as weak, even if you want strength, your actions will reflect that weakness. The self-concept pulls your behavior into alignment with it. This is why resolutions so often fail, because people try to graft new behaviors onto an old identity. It's like planting seeds in soil that's poisoned. The soil must change first. So when you craft your sentence for September, don't stop at what you want to achieve. Ask who must I become to make that achievement inevitable. If your sentence is, I am the kind of person who honors my word, then everything else flows from that. Suddenly, fitness goals, financial goals, relationship goals, they all find traction because the foundation of identity has shifted. You are not just chasing results, you are building a self that produces those results naturally. This is not abstract. Think about the stories that inspire us, the heroes we admire, the leaders we respect, the individuals who changed history. They were defined not just by outcomes but by identities. Nelson Mandela did not merely achieve the end of apartheid, he became the kind of man whose integrity, endurance, and forgiveness made that outcome possible. Viktor Frankl did not merely survive a concentration camp, he became the kind of person who found meaning in suffering, and that identity carried him through the darkest of human experiences. Outcomes are fragile, identity endures. And here's something even more powerful: when you reshape your identity, you change your relationship to suffering. If you define yourself only by outcomes, then every setback feels like failure, every obstacle feels like injustice. But if you define yourself by identity, if you say, I am the kind of person who perseveres, who disciplines, who grows stronger under pressure, then suffering becomes raw material. It becomes the very thing that proves your sentence is real. Identity gives you resilience because it roots you deeper than circumstance. Now, this is not easy work. To rewrite identity, you must confront the old one. You have to look honestly at the stories you've told yourself for years. Stories that may have been inherited from family, culture, or past failures, and you must decide to discard them. That's terrifying because identity feels permanent. It feels like the deepest truth about you. But it's not. It's a story you've been repeating. And the extraordinary thing about human beings is that we can change our story. With enough intention and consistent action, we can write a new identity. And September is the perfect crucible for this. 1 month of living by a sentence that begins with, I am the kind of person who, can begin to rewire your self-concept. At first, it feels like an act. It feels forced. But with each action, you cast a vote for the identity you want to become. And votes accumulate. Soon, the sentence no longer feels like a script. It feels like you. That is the essence of breakthrough. Not that you add new outcomes to your life, but that you become a new kind of person capable of sustaining them. So don't settle for shallow goals this month. Don't reduce your potential to a number on a scale or a figure in a bank account. Aim deeper. Ask yourself, who must I become so that those outcomes follow as a natural byproduct? Let your one sentence not only guide your days but reshape your identity. Because if you change who you are, you will inevitably change what you achieve. And this is the heart of transformation. Outcomes are temporary, but identity is destiny. Craft your sentence wisely, live it consistently, and September will not just give you results, it will give you a new self. September has always carried with it a peculiar kind of weight. It sits at an interesting place in the year, past the promise of January's resolutions, past the chaos of summer's distractions, and not yet at the frenzy of December's closing rush. It is, in a way, a hinge. And hinges matter because they are the points upon which doors turn. If January is the month of beginnings and December is the month of endings, then September is the month of decision. It is the quiet moment where you either choose to let the year slip into repetition, or you choose to rewrite the story before it's too late. That's why September can become more than just a stretch of days on the calendar. It can become symbolic, a psychological reset button. Human beings, after all, are creatures of meaning. We can't live by numbers and schedules alone. We need symbols to orient ourselves, rituals to anchor us, and turning points to reawaken us. September offers that opportunity if you're willing to claim it. But here's the problem: most people don't. Most people stumble into September already tired, already defeated, already whispering to themselves, "I'll try again next year." They see the year as mostly over, and so they let themselves drift. And in that drifting, they waste not just a month, but the chance to end the year with strength and momentum. They hand September over to habit instead of harnessing it as renewal. That's a tragedy, because when you waste symbolic opportunities, you weaken your spirit. The truth is, you don't need a new year to reinvent yourself. You need a decision. And September is as good a decision point as you will ever find. When you anchor your one sentence to this month, you are saying, "This is my threshold. This is where I stop repeating the past and step into something new." That act alone has enormous psychological power. You are not just setting a goal, you are marking a transition. And human beings respond to transitions with seriousness because they give shape to time. Think about rituals. Every culture in history has used them. Coming of age ceremonies, seasonal festivals, religious observances. They are all ways of turning time into meaning. They tell the individual, this moment is not like all the others. This moment matters. And in response, people rise to the moment. September can be that kind of ritual for you. It can be the line you draw, the marker you return to, the hinge upon which the rest of your year swings. But let's be honest, renewal is not easy. To claim September as renewal, you must confront your inertia. You must admit that you've let parts of the year slide by, that you've fallen short of your potential. That admission can sting. But without it, you can't reset. Renewal always comes with an ending. The ending of excuses, the ending of avoidance, the ending of passivity. And endings hurt. But they're also liberating because they clear the ground for something new. This is where your one-sentence formula becomes so crucial. The sentence itself is not just clarity, not just action, not just identity. It is also a declaration of renewal. When you write it, you are saying the old ways are finished. This is who I will be now. And when you tie that declaration to September, you give it symbolic urgency. You're not postponing your life to January. You're not waiting for the calendar to give you permission. You're seizing the present month as the doorway. And here's the thing: once you decide to treat September as renewal, everything looks different. The obstacles you face are no longer evidence that you should quit. They're evidence that you're truly changing. Because change always resists. Comfort always fights back. But when you frame September as the month of renewal, that resistance becomes expected, even welcomed. It tells you you're on the right track. You stop fearing difficulty and start interpreting it as the proof that your transformation is real. I think many people underestimate how much power there is in framing time. If you treat September as just another month, it will pass you by as though it never existed. But if you treat it as a decisive moment, it will shape you for years to come. The month itself is neutral. It is your interpretation of it that gives it power. And interpretation is always a choice. You can choose to drift, or you can choose to decide. So ask yourself, what will September mean to me? Will it be just another page in the calendar, or will it be the turning point? The month that split my life into before and after. That choice is in your hands. And if you tie your one-sentence formula to this month with clarity, intention, action, and identity, then September becomes a symbol you can carry for the rest of your life. You will look back and say, that was the month I stopped drifting. That was the month I renewed myself. So let me leave you with this: September is not just time, it is opportunity disguised as time. Claim it, mark it, live it. Because if you dare to make this month your reset, then September will not only transform the rest of your year, it will transform you.